Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. I'm Aubrey Sassoon, the worship associate this morning. Our minister, the Reverend Jeremiah Callanday, is out of the pulpit this morning, but will be back next week. We're joined instead by our minister emerita, the Reverend Judith Meyer, who served our community from 1993 until 2008. She joins us from her home in Knoxville, Tennessee, where she lives with her husband, David. After a difficult and painful week for many, we come together in our exploration of thresholds and what they mean in our lives. They're important ideas when many of us are stuck together with family members we love deeply, but who may not be the best housemates during a pandemic. And also, while we see great political changes that may be distressing for some of us. I don't think I yet know what thresholds that I personally have reached during quarantine. Maybe that's a sign that I haven't. Besides finally learning how to make some really good sourdough bread, which I've been wanting to do for ages. Maybe my life before this was a little too similar to these circumstances than was good for me, for my own well-being, for my growth towards the future, for my connections with friends and family. Being restricted has shone a light on some of the ways that I was restricting and isolating myself before all this. But I keep finding myself fantasizing about the future. How could I not? It's so exciting to imagine myself doing so many of the things that a part of me has been scared to do since even before the pandemic began. But I hear over and over again, though, on the news and from friends that this old world is ending and a new one will begin. But how is that new world any different if it's still littered with the prejudices, the inequality, and the pain of the old one? At what miraculous point, what threshold has to be reached to set aside these things? Because to me, we aren't in any new beginning or new world if our Black community members and siblings are still being terrorized by police violence and the limited concerns of white moderates like they have in the past week. In 2018, during Brett Kavanaugh's Senate confirmation hearings, our Unitarian Universalist Association put out on social media the message that we believe a new way is possible, referring at the time to sexual and gendered violence and discrimination. It struck something in me, that while so many others were quibbling about the day-to-day dramatics of national politics, here was this simple statement, not negotiating any small meanings out of every offhand comment said, but saying our values plainly and proudly, and that we all deserve better than what this has been. It felt profound at the time, and it still does. And I keep thinking about it anytime I begin to fantasize about the future. We believe a new way is possible. And I wonder, especially of those of us coming from places of great privilege in our communities, how our histories, our heritage, our unconscious biases will stop being tethers holding us away from change and instead be our inspiration for something different, our guides towards a new way, where mere survival is not a best case scenario, where living and thriving means more than that for all of us. These are big issues. They often feel too big for our bodies to hold, just as the loneliness I was feeling before any stay-at-home order was even needed felt too big for myself. I'm here to remind you and to affirm you that we hold these things with one another, because together is the only way we can move forward. I'm part of this community, and I'm here this morning with you because I believe that we together must be part of discovering what that new way of being is. I believe that desire is why each of us has chosen to be a part of this community. We each reached some threshold in our lives where we needed a place and a people like this. And so this morning, as we worship together, however you are, whatever your background, whichever your spiritual beliefs, you're not alone. And I'm so glad that you're here with us, because it is those very things about you, those differences among us, that allow us to grow together towards a new way. I light my chalice this morning, and I invite you to light yours as well if you have one, in the hope that it may be a guiding light, illuminating the connections between us and giving warmth to our hearts. I light it in the memory of George Floyd. Let it shine for us towards a new way, a better way.
Love is little, love is low, love will make our spirits grow, grow in peace, grow in light, love will do. Love is patient, love is kind. In love's flames our hearts refined. Trust in peace, trust in light. Love will do the thing that's right. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Now, please join me in reciting the covenant of our church. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with each other.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land by every tongue.
Good morning. Today's story is going to take us all the way back to 1929, specifically August of 1929. And we're going to follow Agatha as times change. Now, Agatha lived in a large apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan in New York City with her little brother, her older sister, and her mom and dad. Her dad did something fancy at a bank or a market. Agatha didn't really know. Her mom took care of the house, and her and her siblings went to school. But one summer, Agatha and her sister came in from playing super hot and tired because August in New York, when they heard their parents arguing. Something about a crash. Agatha looked at her sister, very confused. They were just outside. They hadn't seen any crashes, and they'd seen cart crashes and car crashes and wagon crashes, but not today. Her mother came out of the room and shut the door and saw the girls and said, "Girls, some things are going to be changing." And by the end of the week, their apartment had been sold. Most of her pretty dresses and her sister's pretty dresses and her mother's best hats were sold, and so were her dolls, and they were leaving Manhattan altogether. They were moving to Brooklyn. And the woman who came to cook, Amanda, she was gone. The nice lady who came to tailor their dresses was also gone. They went from everyone having their own room to Agatha and her sister sharing their little brother sleeping in the general living room with their parents, and Agatha's whole world had changed. She didn't go to school with any of her friends anymore. There wasn't roasts for dinner. Agatha felt like her life was over. And then her mom took her up to the roof of their building in Brooklyn, and she saw all of these plants. She said, what is this? And Mother said, it's a garden, and we're going to eat from here. And Agatha was very confused. Food generally just arrived. You didn't grow it. That's what farmers did. And she read about those in books, but her mother said, well, we can't afford to buy things anymore. All of the money is gone. All of whose money? Everyone's money. And so Agatha and her sister and her mother dug their hands deep into the dirt and watered plants and talked to the woman who lived in the apartment downstairs for seeds, and slowly a garden began to grow. And Agatha missed playing with her friends, but, the boys from the building across the street, they played a mean game of stickball. And so Agatha and her little brother spent their afternoons playing in the streets in Brooklyn. She still missed her dolls, but the boys from Brooklyn had far more colorful language than the girls she used to play with. But when her birthday rolled around, that's when she thought, I can't do this. We can't afford to buy vegetables. I won't get to have a cake. I won't get to have my favorite meal. How could she live? She was turning 9. How could a 9-year-old live without being able to celebrate their birthday? Well, Mrs. Peterson downstairs knocked on their door, and sad Agatha opened. And Miss Peterson said, come. And Agatha followed her, and she showed her a coffee can, a bag of ice, and what looked like buttermilk. And Agatha was very confused. So Mrs. Peterson took an empty soup can, poured in the milk, which was actually cream, Agatha learned, put it inside of the coffee can, layered ice from the bag and salt, covered it, and said, roll this around. Agatha said, what? Roll it around. So Agatha began to roll, and roll, and roll, and she got tired, and so she called her sister downstairs, and she rolled, and she called her brother, and he rolled some, and then their mother finally came downstairs and said, I've been looking all over. It's your birthday, we're going to celebrate. And Mrs. Peterson said, just give them a few more minutes. And finally, she said, it's done. What's done? Miss Peterson took the can and set it on the table, took off the lid, pulled out the soup drop container, and stuck a spoon in it, and said, happy birthday. Agatha was a little confused, but she took a spoonful and ate it. It was ice cream in the middle of Brooklyn, when they couldn't afford to buy vegetables. All of her dolls were gone, her pretty dresses, her whole world had changed. And Mrs. Peterson downstairs had brought something even Agatha could have only bought in a restaurant right to the living room of their Brooklyn apartment building. And so forever after that, Agatha and her little brother and her sister always remembered that even when things change, you have a way of finding the things that you really need. And that's our story for today.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Hello, friends. I am Judith Meyer, Minister Emerita of this congregation. I am grateful for the opportunity to join you in community online. For our mindfulness meditation, I turn to the work of James Finley. Jim is a practitioner and teacher of the contemplative way, a clinical psychologist, and a former monk who studied with Thomas Merton at the Gethsemane Monastery in Kentucky. Jim lives in Marina del Rey and has spoken at our church several times over the years. I've been listening to his podcast, Turning to the Mystics, for help in my own meditation practice. Here is how Jim sees meditation. When you're sitting in practice, you're sitting with people who are sitting in prayer all over the world. Not only that, it extends out further. When we sit in practice, we're sitting in oneness with the holiness of the human family, that the whole family is all woven together in God. We are doing our own version of that right now. Jim also says, we sit still because there's no place to go. I take from that, we sit still not because we are trapped or confined in quarantine, but because where we are is everywhere we need to be, in this moment, in oneness. Let the silence now connect us to one another. So be it. What do we need to live? Is a question I have been asking myself more urgently than ever before these past few months. We all have. A crisis brings reckonings. It reveals longings. It reduces our choices and our goals to essential ones, showing us who we are and what we cherish. Life and death are before us with a prolonged immediacy, relentless yet unfamiliar, something we want to push away, but are forced to confront. Waking up in the morning, my first thought is, oh no, there it is again. Staying alive requires endless attention to joyless chores, which we ignore at our peril. All the cleaning and protecting makes us numb and on edge at the same time. But we do what we must do in order to live. When this new way of life began for me nearly 3 months ago, it arrived not as an existential crisis, but as a managerial one. Our household needed things, all the things we all needed, food and cleaning supplies and prescriptions, and we had to get them fast. I was completely unprepared. I'm a minimalist by nature. I've never stockpiled anything in my life except hot sauce. So the question, what do we need to live, demanded practical answers and lists. I figured it out, as we all have, with varying degrees of success. And it turns out we don't really need all that much. A friend tells a story about Jerry Brown during his first term as governor of California in the 1970s. When a reporter asked him a long forgotten question, Brown responded acerbically, 1,400 calories a day and a moderate climate, and everything else in your life is expectation. This pronouncement has been my friend's mantra ever since, and over the years he sought guidance from it. Now he has given away his wealth, lives simply, and reports that he is content at last. Who knows what a reporter might have asked Jerry Brown that prompted such an answer, but it is instructive to consider how much or how little we really do need to live. I would add to 1,400 calories and a moderate climate, comfortable shelter, access to education and health care and fair work, and the companionship of others. These past 2 or 3 months have raised such questions in the starkest of terms, as daily life reduces down to a quest for those 1,400 calories and some hope. When the pandemic arrived, my husband David and I realized that we would have to stay home indefinitely. In the process, I discovered that these quiet days and new restrictions allowed me to practice contemplative living, time to slow down and turn inward. I like living this simply. I also realized that experiencing quarantine as a meditation retreat is an expression of privilege and the reality that I already have more than I need. We may all be in this together, but our experience is not the same. For those who are pulled in so many different directions, working and parenting, learning the required technologies, trying to stay healthy, coping with anxiety and fear, this is not a time of simplicity and renewal. We hope that will come after. Now is a struggle to keep from being overwhelmed and perhaps to sleep at night. To those whose work is essential but not rewarding, whose human need for dignity and respect is not met in the demands of the day, whose risk is great but not gratefully acknowledged, we owe what they need to live. The inequities and cruelties of our society are there for all to see in all their varieties. We can hope that even if we learn nothing else, it is that every person is essential, whatever their work or status. You don't need me to remind you of these problems or the suffering now happening all over the world. The novelist Arundhati Roy recently published her reflections on the crisis as it unfolded in India. The horrific conditions there are not just the result of the recent pandemic. They are, she writes, the doomsday machine we have built for ourselves. Nothing could be worse than a return to normality. Hope must reside in seeing our current reality as a portal, as Arundhati Roy describes it. She continues, historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, our data banks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly, with little luggage, ready to imagine another world and ready to fight for it. What do we need to live? Not what we thought we needed, perhaps. Letting go of expectations, letting go of a return to normality may be the way forward, the way of resilience, hope, and compassion. When the farmers market here in Knoxville, Tennessee, reopened for the season a couple weeks ago, I hesitated about going. It was smartly laid out, allowing huge swaths of open space between vendors and contactless transactions carried out with care. Everyone was attentive to each other's safety. But I wasn't sure I wanted to be there because I feared it would be a depressing reminder of what was missing. The old farmers market, with all its noise and bustle and crowds and lingering conversations with friends, all now forbidden. When I went, it was clearly not the same thing. But I found what I needed, and after I made my last purchase, I asked a farmer, a man at least as old as I am, if this new setting was difficult for him. Not really, he said. We'll manage. Not the answer I expected, but surprisingly uplifting and memorable. That farmer had already gone through the portal, that gateway between one world and the next, as Roy described it. Not expecting a return to normality, he showed the way of resilience and hope. We'll manage. We are living in a time of great loss. We grieve those who have died, and we grieve a way of life that is no longer sustainable. We don't know what will take its place. It is time to look at our expectations and what we really need. As I recall the future I had planned with travel to interesting destinations, evenings with friends at restaurants down the street, visits with family across the country, and Sundays at church, I feel disappointment and loss. I yearn for all that I miss, people and places. Some of them will come back, but not until we and our world have changed. And I keep thinking about 1,400 calories a day, a moderate climate, and everything else is your expectation. Harsh rhetoric. Of course, we need more than that. But before we ask ourselves what we may expect, we first have to acknowledge what we need to let go. We need to lighten the luggage, to step through the portal. I hope we can do it. The way ahead will not be easy for most of us. I already struggle with that. My sister-in-law in California said to me at the beginning of the quarantine, "We may never see each other again." I cannot stand that. What if I have to? Probably not. But some choices will be more agonizing than others. Other choices won't be ours to make. There will be a way forward, even if we cannot see it clearly right now. I find hope in letting go of the wish for everything to go back to normal. I find hope in the people who have already found a way to enter the portal and come out the other side. People who give away what they have so that others may find better lives. People who know how to manage whatever comes their way. What we need to live is the courage to relinquish what has never been good for ourselves or for others. What we need to live is the compassion to learn how to rebuild this suffering world. We will pass through this portal. We will restore ourselves, see the people and places we love once again. But we will change. We will need less. And all life will be so much more. So be it.
We come together for more than ourselves. This week we continue to contribute 50% of our offerings to the UUA COVID-19 Pandemic Response Fund. Some congregations have been affected more than others, and so our contribution to this fund allows for our UU faith community to make sure those who have been heavily impacted receive the support that they need. There are 3 ways to give: by text, on our website, or by mailing a check. If you're giving by text on a smartphone, please text the number on the screen, 844-982-0209. Indicate the amount you would like to donate and put one of the codes shown to let us know which fund it will go towards. Enter GCC for a generous contribution, PLG for your pledged contribution, or IDC for a different allocation. If this is your first time giving this way, it will reply with instructions to register, but the next time you do it will be much simpler. You can also provide a one-time or set up a recurring donation on our website, www.uusm.org. Thank you for your generous contribution.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high And don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the road, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Come, soul of all things, make it mine to feel amid the city's jar that there abides a peace of thine I did not make and cannot mar. The will to neither strive nor cry, the power to feel with others give. Come me more, nor let me die before I have begun to live.
May we have the strength and compassion to imagine and to create the new world that awaits us, for it will have everything we need to live. So be it.